your way Facebook Live. So I'm here with Georgie Freeman, who's our amazing manager, and an incredible lady who I have cold called and stalked a little bit on Twitter, Jones. This is not something I do quite regularly, but I heard about Jody in August last year, and someone I follow called Deborah James, who has bowel cancer, is a big advocate for people living active lives with cancer and bowel cancer awareness. Anyway, she tweeted about this incredible lady called Jody, who just swum the English Channel. So that's an incredible experience by itself. I think lots of people would like to swim the channel. A few people try to, very few actually manage it. I think there's only actually about 2,100 people who've swum the channel solo since it was first kind of officially recognised back in 1875. More people have actually climbed Everest and swum the channel. So crazy. That is pretty incredible. I've got friends who have tried to swim it successfully and unsuccessfully. I know how much of a challenge it is in preparation, in bit of luck, in terms of actually doing it. So I heard about Jody sometime and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then I heard her backstory, and Jody did it with a diagnosis of stage 4 bowel cancer in between cycles of chemotherapy. And just take a minute to let that sink in. It's rare that I'm in awe when I hear about something, but I was just so inspired. And when we started doing these Facebook Lives, I thought I would really love to have a chat with Jody. So I sent her a Twitter message and said, you probably don't know who I am, but would you come on and have a chat with us? So I was so excited to welcome the incredible Jody Jones. Thank you very much, Jody.
Thank you for having me.
So first things first, have you always been a swimmer?
I was a swimmer when I was a kid. I was a club swimmer until I was about 13, and I literally grew to hate pool because I was there all the time. And I wanted to do some sports that involved other people, so I started doing more team sports at school. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really come back to swimming until I was at university when I was training to be a PE teacher. And I did all my teaching qualifications in swimming and everything else. And then I stopped again and just became a holiday swimmer. And then my husband, who is fairly recently retired from the army, we were posted down to Dorset a few years into our marriage. And we lived about half a mile from Lulworth Cove, which is the most beautiful place. Yeah. You'll have seen the news this weekend, unfortunately, for not so good reasons. But yeah. I was watching Kerry-Anne Payne talk about the Olympics. It was in the build-up to the Olympics in 2012. And I heard her talking about open water swimming, and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to try this out. And I'd done a bit when we lived in Germany through the forces, but only literally paddling. So it didn't really help. So we went back home, got my surfing wetsuit, which is completely inappropriate for swimming, and tried to breaststroke across the cove. It's about 300 meters with the point I was swimming, and it was just, I was awful, but I just fell in love with it. I felt really free. I'd not long had a baby, so I was quite unfit, and I wanted to get back my fitness.
So how long ago was this, Jody?
This is in 2012, so it's March 2012.
Yeah.
I jumped in. So my eldest daughter would have been about 1. Yeah, it's just so enlightening, and just, yeah, it was a bit of sort of a light bulb moment for me. And within a year, I think I booked my first 10K swim. Wow. And I did the dark 10K the following year. Yeah. And then about 2 months later, I swam Alcatraz. I was on a business trip in the States. And I obviously had packed my wetsuit. I was a wetsuit swimmer back then. And,
one of the softies, like me.
Like me. Swimming is swimming. If you're in the water, that's all that counts to me. It doesn't matter what you wear. So I swam Alcatraz, and when I was in the bay, I just sort of looked around at this huge space I was in, and it just blew me away, literally. And I just knew then that I wanted to get into distance swimming. I mean, the actual swim is only about 2.5 kilometers. It's not that far, but it's quite a tricky swim. But it was just a sheer space around me. It just got me, and that was it. That was my love.
Then you were stuck.
Yeah.
So you had quite a long time where you didn't swim at all.
Yeah, about 15 years.
Were you doing anything in that time, exercise-wise?
Well, I was a PE teacher for 16 years, so I was doing lots of different sports, but not really. I was playing competitive lacrosse for my club, but then I stopped when I stopped that when I was about 31.
Yeah.
Just because we were about to move to Germany and I couldn't carry on playing over there, so that's when I got a bit more into cycling and walking and things like that. I've always been into like hill walking and mountaineering, low level mountaineering, nothing sort of tricky. And so I just poodled around doing lots of different stuff, lots of badminton, scuba diving, took that up, but I never really found my sport until I refound open water swimming. Not since I stopped playing lacrosse. I was sort of in a bit of a dip. I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
And when you swam as a kid, did you? Because I've done a lot of swimming, very badly.
No, not that badly.
But it's always been the bane of my life because I didn't swim as a kid, and when I was a professional triathlete, it was something I really tried at, can never get good at, and I've done my fair share of swimming as an adult with kids at 5:30 in the morning, and it's really struck me how some of them love it and other people do it because their parents, because they've always done it, or a few because their parents make them. And I know, Georgie was a very, very good swimmer.
I'm okay. I can really relate to you, Jody, from being a kid and swimming, in the pool. And then I was the same. And I do completely understand that I had enough of the pool. And I got to uni and the swimming stall was there at the Freshers' Fair and the triathlon stall was there. And I was like, you know what? I've just had enough of swimming up and down a pool and up and down. I'm going to try cycling and running as well. So that's how it worked with me. So I do really understand from being a child and being taken to the pool. And I did love it at the time.
Yeah, I loved it at the time.
But then you fall out of love with it. It's too much. Yeah. I did it for, I don't know how many hours a week you did, but
I was like 6 days a week.
Yeah, every day. Yeah,
too much.
Yeah.
And do your kids swim, Jodie?
My 5-year-old is just started lessons about a term before COVID kicked in, and she absolutely loves it. So she's always in our little pop-up pool in the garden that we've got.
Yeah, I've seen your Lido in the garden.
It's great.
She swims for her school, and she's in a club as well. It's very low key club. It's just right. If it's not something she wants to carry on with, there's no pressure. The way I see it, I think children should learn to swim for safety. We live on an island that's full of rivers and lakes and ponds, and if you want to be a club swimmer, be a club swimmer. If you want to just learn to swim for safety, then that's more important. So there's no pressure on them to do it if they don't want to. They happen to love it, but then especially my youngest, she's grown up around me swimming constantly. So she's very aware of the water and safety and being careful, but she's also very aware of swimming and how much fun you can have swimming. So they love it, but the second they don't enjoy it, I'm not gonna say you have to go to club because I've been that kid.
It's interesting. I grew to hate swimming when I was doing it. I'm really trying and just not getting slower. And now I don't have to, particularly after the last 10 weeks of not being able to swim. And like you, we can jump in lakes and rivers. And I went to Knoll Quarry last night, and it was just absolutely beautiful.
I saw your pictures.
It looks so nice.
Being immersed in that feeling of being and swimming for like just exactly how you described that swimming across the bay in Alcatraz.
It's just so freeing, and the pool has its merits and it's so good for training and everything else. But being in the open water is where my heart is.
So you did the swim in Alcatraz, and you had this kind of enlightening moment. And how did the channel dream? When did that come to you? How did that come about?
You go from Alcatraz 2.6k to 21 miles of swimming.
It's in between. No, we used to joke about it at club. To be honest, we had a channel swimmer in the seniors when we were sort of like 10.
As a kid's club?
As a child, we used to joke about it in changing rooms, sort of, one day I'm going to do this and it'll be really easy, and I've just done my mile badge so I can do that. That was pain. And then after Alcatraz, I joined a couple of Facebook groups through the Outdoor Swimming Society, and just started building up a network of swimming friends, really. And it just went from there. A couple of my friends, we decided we were going to do a channel relay in 2016. There were 6 of us. So it was a standard relay. And it was really fun. The training was great. Sorry, my kids are just coming from school.
Then come on, give us a wave.
Stay away from me till I've had a bath. So, yeah, the training was really good, and the actual day in the channel was it was perfect. It was Bastille Day when we actually swam. So on the way back, there were fireworks going off, and we landed at a particular point where there's a restaurant called La Sirène. And if they're open, the owner comes down with a tray of champagne for all the swimmers.
Oh, how nice.
That's amazing.
I mean, it didn't stay down very long because it was quite rough. But, it was just such a cool day. And before you do a relay, you have to do a 2-hour qualifying swim in water that's under 16 degrees. And I'd kind of been umming and ahhing about sort of pushing myself a bit further. So I booked a Windermere solo for the same year as the relay.
How far is Windermere?
It's 10.5 miles. But
Okay.
it's more like 11 because I was a bit like this.
And when was this? Sorry.
That was 2016 as well. So it was about a month after my relay happened. But when I was doing my relay qualifier, which was in 2015, I went down to Dirty Sea Swims, which is in Bournemouth, which is one of the channel training groups.
Yeah.
It was a really beautiful sandy beach. Amazing people. I've made some of the best friends down there. They're just such inspiring people. I hate that word, to be honest, but down there, everyone's reason for being there is just incredible. Everyone's got such an amazing reason for wanting to swim the channel, and I've made some amazing friends there. But the guy that runs it, Marcus, he sort of came over to me. It was my first time down at Dirty, and he said, "A little bird tells me that you've got your eye on a bigger swim. What's that bigger swim?" I said, "Oh, it's Windermere." And he said, "Well, you know, Windermere is half the distance of the channel." I was like, "Yes." At this point, I just had another baby 2.5 months before.
Wow.
So I was a bit like, I don't think I can manage a bigger swim. Like, I've got a 3-month-old nearly. So he sort of sowed a little seed in my mind. I then got in the water, 2-hour swim, and all I thought about for the 2 hours was, I want to swim the channel, I want to swim the channel, I want to swim the channel. And I got out of the water, and about 3 days later, I'd phoned our channel relay pilot, boat pilot, and said, "I want to swim the channel." And he said, "I thought you were going to be phoning me."
That's brilliant.
So funny enough, my husband said the same thing. He said, "I've been waiting for you to say this to me for months because I knew this conversation was coming."
Is he a swimmer?
He's done some swimming. He's done, he was one of my support swimmers on my channel swim.
Okay.
And he's done some serpentine, the 2 mile to get his, I can't remember what they call it, the when you do the London Marathon.
Okay, yeah.
So he's got his big sort of coaster medal, it's massive.
Oh yeah.
So he's done that, and he does bits and pieces. His passion at the moment is cycling. He's done ultra marathons.
Wow.
And his knees are not overly keen on him doing any more. That's not to say that he wouldn't. But he's currently training for the jog for Land's End John O'Groats next year.
I've seen that, yeah. So he gets doing crazy stuff. He doesn't he can identify with you.
Yeah. I mean that's one of the reasons why we got on so well when we first met, because I was about to climb Kilimanjaro when we met, and he had previously climbed it, and he's done lots of mountaineering and stuff like that. So we've always sort of been into weird, crazy endurance stuff.
It's hard to.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Georgie and
Not weird.
Georgie and I met last year in the Scilly Isles doing the swim run around there.
I really want to do that swim.
Have you been? You have to go.
I'd love to.
The swimming there is amazing.
It looks stunning.
Yeah, definitely a bucket list. And I think you'd be doing them a favour if you go after the summer, because obviously they're really struggling.
Yeah.
Anyway, so 2016, you have this idea. Is that right?
Yeah,
You're going to swim the channel.
Yeah, so I booked it in 2015, did the relay 2016 and Windermere. And then from then onwards, it was literally just head down, and loads of training. I went to a swim camp called Varn Ridge, English Channel swim camp down in Dover the following year. Was literally the fittest I'd ever been in the build-up year to my channel. My channel was supposed to be 2018 in August. So I was literally just doing big events, 10Ks, 14Ks, 6-7 hour sea swims just for training in the sea.
Wow. Can I just ask, how do you get into a 6 hour swim and get your mind focused on thinking, I'm going to swim for 6 hours and and I'm not going to talk to anyone, I'm just going to do it on my own, and that's that? Like, how do you...
With again, with daily sea swims, so there's lots of us doing different, some people are doing relays, some people are doing Windermere, some people are doing a 10K, and some people are doing a channel, some people are doing a two-way channel. Wow. There's all kinds of stuff that people are training for. So everyone's kind of got the same mentality. So when we're getting ready at the beach, it's like supported. So there's a beach crew there every week, and we all volunteer and take turns. So you kind of geared up to it on your way down there. Porridge helps a lot. And horrible channel gloop carb powder drinks with summer fruit squash in it and a bit of glucose helps. Yeah, jelly babies help. No, you know you have to do it. If you want to swim the channel, you have to love what you're doing, and it's like any endurance event. If you don't love what you're doing and it's not your passion, then the training will be even harder than it physically is. It'll be mentally harder. And I just love it. I just get in and I don't want to get out. I'm always the last one out. We do handstands until we finish. And
do you think, like, what do you are you thinking when you're, because you know, sometimes on the bike on a good day, I'm just, you know, 5 hours can fly, but I get to see stuff. I know you might see the odd fish, but I'm going somewhere and
the odd fish.
But you know, on bad days, and if I get cold, I can put some clothes on, and but on a bad day, it's I mean, where does your brain go when you're swimming for 6 hours?
So you don't swim for 6 hours. You swim from feed to feed. So at the end of an hour, you're going to come back into the support crew, and they're going to have a nice warm channel gloop for you, and maybe a flapjack or a jelly baby or something they'll chuck at you. So there's always that. You basically swim feed to feed. If you're doing a longer swim, it has to be the same. You don't, if you think about the fact that you're swimming the channel, which is like 21 miles, then it's even harder. If you just think, I'm going to swim for maybe an hour and they'll give me a feed, and then I'll swim for another hour and then they give me a feed, and then after 6 hours they might give me a feed every 45 minutes or every 30 minutes. So you're literally just swimming from feed to feed to feed to feed, and by breaking it down into chunks, it just makes it a lot easier. It's not easy, but it stops you thinking about the enormity of what you're actually doing, because it is pretty massive.
What was the furthest you swam before you swam, the longest you did before the channel?
I tend to go more on time, so my longest time was about 7 hours 50.
And then you swam for 18 hours.
Yeah.
We're jumping a bit, aren't we?
Sorry, I'm just getting excited. Sorry, take it back.
Carry on the story, Jody. I want to get to the channel as well, but there's a big chunk in the middle.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, you just keep going. If you want it enough, and the tide's right, and the weather's okay, and you don't get injured during the swim, then you just keep going.
Wow. So much of what you've said is what resonates with me as for those who don't know, I was a triathlete, and now I'm an oncologist, and so much of I've learned so much in my time as an athlete that I think has made me a better doctor and given me a lot of drive about what I want to achieve in life and how I want to live my life. And so much of what you're saying about the importance of passion and belief, and if you want something enough, and breaking things into chunks, it just resonates. It is exactly the words that I say when I'm talking, you know, doing talks to kids at a school, the lessons from sport are so transferable, aren't they?
Yeah. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about resilience, what you can physically push yourself to, and the fact there's always a little bit more that you can go. you're never, I don't think I've ever been fully exhausted. Even after my channel swim, my arms were very sore and I was absolutely shattered, don't get me wrong, but I still didn't want to get out of the water. So when I had to get back in and swim back to the boat, the beach, I actually didn't want to get out. I wanted to carry on. I physically couldn't have carried on.
Yeah.
Deep down inside, I think there's always something you can just pull that little bit extra from somewhere. And I think a lot of it is in your head. It's channel swimming in any endurance sport. I don't think it is completely physical at all. It's very about, well, I don't know. I think that the mental aspects of it are so much more. You have to put the training in and you have to put the hours in, but mentally you have to train yourself as well. That's so important. Whether it's a 5K or a 10K or a, you know, a walk down the road having not been out of the house because you've been shielding for 3 months, you know, actually mentally taking that first step is huge, but keeping going is even more important. And the reward at the end is just incredible.
So there's so many questions that are coming into my mind that I'd like to delve into in a bit about how your swimming has helped you deal with your cancer. But so far, we haven't even mentioned your cancer, which I guess is pretty telling in itself. But I don't think we can not talk about it. So tell us when did cancer come into your life?
So when I was doing a swim camp that I mentioned over on Ridge in October 2017, and my tummy felt a bit weird on one of the swim days. And that's probably the first time I remember thinking, that's not quite right. And I put it down to nerves. We were about to do a 6-hour swim. It was quite choppy. We were in a new location that I wasn't used to. And I was a bit like, oh, maybe it's just that. Maybe it's the beers I had last night. Well, for energy, obviously. Because we were doing like big swims every single day. So we'd go out and have dinner and stuff every night. So we're eating in different places. So I just thought I might have either eaten something or maybe had a beer. Did my 6-hour swim, absolutely fine, got out, felt fine. But then gradually from then I started getting, over the next sort of few weeks, stomach cramps that I was noticing. And I'd probably been having them before that. But I think because I was pushing my pain barrier through my training and long swims, I was used to feeling pain. And I just put it down to the fact that I'm training really hard because next year I'm swimming the channel. And they just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where I was doubled over my desk at work. And my mum, who was my boss, she literally came in and said, what is going on? What is wrong with you? These are not going well. You need to go see the doctor. So she phoned the doctor for me, made an appointment. I'd just done a 10K in the Thames, not long for that appointment. So he wanted to rule out that I'd picked up anything from the river. I mean, I've been swimming in the Thames for, well, now 8 years, and I've never been ill from the Thames. So I kind of knew that it wasn't that. But they ruled that out, and then thought maybe it's IBS, because these stomach cramps were just getting worse and worse and worse, and nothing was helping. And then eventually in December, I was referred to a stomach surgeon, a bowel surgeon, sorry, who did his lovely examination. But if you've had bowel cancer testing, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's not fun, but it's very necessary. And they had to stop the surgery after about 5 minutes because they'd found a tumour, basically, that was virtually blocking my entire bowel. Did
they tell you at that point?
Yeah, so I kind of knew, when I was in recovery, I knew something was wrong. He didn't think, none of us thought it was anything serious. They thought it might be possibly a back injury from when I was playing lacrosse or something like that, because I had quite a bad back injury years and years and years ago. And they thought it might be linked to that, and it was sort of, I'd done something through my swimming that had sort of aggravated it, whatever. But we wanted to rule it out because it's coming up to Christmas. So that was the 19th of December. I was in recovery, and the nurse, she said she just had a look on her face that wasn't, she just looked a bit concerned. And I think what happened was the other surgeon wanted to operate there and then. So there'd been a discussion, obviously she'd overheard it and didn't want to let on. So she tried really hard not to show me, and she was so sweet. But then the other nurse from the ward came down and said, should we send down for her meal? And the other nurse had to say, no, just nothing for now, because they didn't know if I'd be going straight into surgery. And then when I went back to the room, my surgeon was waiting in the room for me. So I just knew. Because we thought nothing was up, my husband was off picking the kids up from school and nursery. Yeah. So I basically had to tell him I had cancer over the phone because I was on my own, which wasn't the best thing to do with hindsight. Because he then had to drop the kids off with my mum so he could then come and pick me up and see me. So my life basically changed in the space of a day. The night before, I'd been doing an 18-kilometre walk around Hertfordshire for charity behind one of these singing Santa sleighs.
Yeah.
That was the night before, and I didn't realise that I had this massive tumour in my bowel.
How old were you, Jodie, then?
39.
Okay.
Peak of my fitness, age 39. So quite young. Yeah. Unexpected, that way. And then I had my surgery literally 10 days later. So he said, go home for Christmas. We've got about 2 or 3 weeks before this gets very dangerous. I then had a scan. They knew from the scan how big it was, and it was on my liver as well. So we've got about 2 or 3 weeks, so we'll do it after Christmas. So literally just before New Year, I had my surgery where they took out just over half my colon and about 39 lymph nodes. And 35 of them were active cancer.
Right.
And so quite a lot. That's quite a lot. And then started chemo 3 months later. So,
what was it like? What did you do in that Christmas? Because I can't imagine that waiting, that world turned upside down.
Mostly tried to protect my kids. My youngest daughter at the time was 2.5. And my eldest was 6.5. So it's mostly trying to protect them. We obviously didn't tell them. They knew that I had to go into hospital because I had a problem in my tummy, but that's literally as far as we went. My youngest didn't understand anyway. She's 2.5. Mummy was going away for a couple of weeks, and it might be a bit sore afterwards. I tried to catch up with friends. I went for a sea swim because I knew I wouldn't be able to go back in the sea for a while, and it was just amazing. I think I must have filled my goggles with tears about 10 times, and then in the next minute I'd be laughing my head off, and then I'd be crying again. But luckily no one could see and no one knew and anything, so I could just get on with it. I just had a very strange Christmas because I was on the pre-surgery white food diet.
Okay, yeah.
Basically turkey and potatoes.
Yeah.
Which is very boring on Christmas Day. But yeah, we just had a very quiet Christmas and just tried to spend as much time together as a family as possible. And did you tell friends? Did you? I told. I sing with a choir, and I'm actually a choir lead, so I had to tell my committee.
The Military Wives Choir, isn't it?
Yeah, so I run one near London. There's 76 choirs, so I run one branch of it at the moment. So I had to tell them because I was going to miss rehearsals. I thought I'd be missing a lot of rehearsals. I only missed one in the end. And I told a couple of my close swim family, and obviously my close relatives, but that's it. I didn't really tell anyone else. I felt because I was 39 and I had bowel cancer that I felt a little bit ashamed. And there's no reason for me to be ashamed because I didn't, it just happened. But I think because of where it is, I was quite embarrassed and I didn't know how to explain it to people. And I didn't want people to think of me as being weak, which now I see as utterly ridiculous. So I basically kept it as a secret for 5 months until my hair fell out with chemo. And obviously then I couldn't get away with not telling people. And people just sort of got a bit quiet on social media, and I wasn't going out or anything like that, and I wasn't sort of catching up with people other than just sort of a quick WhatsApp message or something like that. So people were starting to ask questions. So the second I told people, it was literally like a weight had come off my shoulders. And I honestly, to God, I wish I'd spoken sooner to people. I honestly, it's one of the biggest mistakes I've made throughout this entire experience with my cancer, not actually reaching out and being honest with people. And there's no reason to be ashamed. it is what it is. It's cancer is rubbish, no matter what kind of cancer it is, no matter what age you are. Yeah. And it's certainly nothing to be ashamed of. It's just, it happens, you know.
It's interesting because you're not alone in thinking that. Lots of people say that, particularly afterwards. I think when they exactly as you describe, they do start to tell people, and they realise that how much support and the positive energy that you can get if your friends know.
I mean, I told people through. I wrote a poem in the end because I couldn't just come out with it. I told my close friends and family at this point. And then I literally just wrote this poem when I was having chemo one day about what had happened. And I just posted that, and I didn't say anything else. Just said, sorry, it's going to be a long post. Posted this poem, and the support that came back and the shock from people. Because I was literally the fittest I'd ever been in my whole entire life when I was diagnosed. I couldn't have been any fitter. So it's completely bizarre to me how it all came about. It's just one of those things.
I know you're quite vocal about trying to increase awareness of bowel cancer and trying to remove the taboo of talking about poo and that shame that you describe. Yeah,
I mean, I think because of where my cancer was, that was the main reason for my embarrassment. Because I didn't want to tell people that I had a disease that, from my experience, I mean, my mum's best friend died of bowel cancer. Again, and she was quite young, not as young as I am now, but she was, she's in her 50s, late 40s, 50s. So I was quite aware of the symptoms of bowel cancer, and I'd always checked for that. And I didn't have any of that. I didn't have any of the blood in my poo, and I didn't have, sudden weight loss or this or that or anything else. I just had stomach cramps. So I think being aware of those symptoms, and I think the level of training I was doing possibly masked the fatigue, which is a common symptom as well. I think I probably would have noticed that a bit more had I not been in sort of the peak of my training. But I think being embarrassed just because it's your bowel, or for people that've got ovarian cancer or cervical cancer, just anything in that area, I think people get quite embarrassed about, and just because it's not an area of the body that we talk about in public. We talk about breasts, we talk about our skin and everything else, but we don't really talk about our nether regions. And there's no reason to be embarrassed. Wherever your cancer is, there's no reason to be embarrassed. And I think just talk about it and just be aware. And if you've got something that you're not happy with, just get it checked. Just get it checked.
It's such an important. Sorry.
It might be nothing.
And nearly always it is nothing. But like you say, we all have. I know I hate going to have a smear, or I hate going to see.
No one enjoys that, do they? No. But it's something that everyone has to do, and we should just talk about it a bit more.
But it's like with the new bowel cancer testing, you don't even have to see someone to do it. Like for the age group that gets screened, they just get sent something in the post. You just go in your bathroom, no one has to know, no one has to see, and it's done. And
Jody, do you have a stoma now or not?
I've never had a stoma. No.
Okay.
My surgeon was able to do without. So.
Okay, so going back, we've gone from channel swimming, really exciting, to bowel cancer awareness, which is really important. So was this January 2018?
Yeah. So I was discharged from hospital from my surgery 2 weeks into January.
Yeah.
So then I was at home recovering.
And then you started chemo.
Yeah. So I started chemo end of February, beginning of March. So it wasn't. It wasn't quite 3 months. So.
And was the chemo at that point? Was that aiming? Had they got rid of all the cancer that they could see at that point?
So they got rid of the bowel. I had 2 metastases on my liver. So they were, at that point, I was classed as curable, or probably curable. The mutation I have, which is called BRAF, is none of them are nice at all, but it's very quick growing with me. It if I'm not on chemo, it grows quite aggressively. So when I started my chemo, they were still looking to shrink the metastases and then go for a liver resection or ablation. It was really successful, my chemo. So one of the Mets completely disappeared, and they now think that was possibly a lymph node. And then that meant I was able to just have ablation on the other one. So that was, the ablation was in September.
Okay. And in the midst of all of this, so you've got 2 kids, you've had massive surgery, you've had chemo. Were you working, or?
I didn't work from the point of my diagnosis to finishing my chemo, and then I left it a month after finishing chemo, had the ablation, and then I think I went back to work about 3 weeks later on a sort of a phased return part-time basis. So it's a family business, so it's very easy to be flexible. So
this was after you were a PE teacher?
Yeah, so I stopped teaching when I had my eldest daughter back in 2011.
Right.
Because I needed to be with her.
Yeah.
Eventually.
So what was happening with swimming during all this time? Were you carrying on with it?
So I was told when I was recovering from the surgery in hospital by the surgeon that I wouldn't be doing anything for 3 months.
Okay.
And my husband was sat next to me, and he just sort of looked at the surgeon and said, "You don't know my wife very well." And I was back swimming in the pool very gently with his permission after 5.5 weeks.
And did you challenge him on this? You won't be doing anything for 3 months.
No, it was just a general. This is the operation you've had. The recovery is 3 months. Obviously, everyone is different. I was young. I was very fit. I was very active before I was diagnosed. And I think naturally that has helped my recovery throughout everything. So the fact I was able to get back in, I was expecting when I got back in to be able to do like 200 meters, and I smashed out, I think, 1.2 kilometers. I say smashed out, it wasn't a smash at all. For the state I was in, it was a smash, but...
But how did it feel? Did it feel a lot different, or did you feel like, oh, just thank God I'm back swimming?
I was just thankful to be back swimming. I was a bit gutted I was in the pool, but I had to be in the pool. I couldn't go in open water because my wound had healed by that point, but I was being very careful. The biggest issue I had was I'd lost quite a bit of speed, and I was very aware that internally my body felt very different, especially when I'm rotating, because there was like a big gap now where half my colon had been. So even like sleeping, I'd feel a bit like, oh, this feels a bit weird. And it's just because it's just getting used to having a new physique inside, I guess. That felt quite strange. Things were moving in a way they hadn't moved before. I was like, I don't get that nice.
And did you at any point have a discussion? So you were given that generic advice about, you're probably not going to be doing them for 3 months. Did you at any point have a discussion with anybody about getting back into exercise training, whether it's important or?
I spoke to the people I swim with that knew really, and then I just listened to my body. Through my training, so I've been training for like 2.5 years. I've really learned well to listen to my body. So that's exactly what I did. I stuck to listening to my body. If I was too tired or I wasn't feeling up to it, I didn't swim. And I sort of gradually built back. I think initially I went like twice in the first week, and then I just sort of gradually built it up. I didn't swim more than 4 times in a week before chemo. But I just gradually increased the distance because I knew I had my channel swim, which had been postponed by this point to the following year. So I still had that target and that goal in my mind. And that for me was really important, that target wasn't taken away from me. It was just delayed a bit. And all my doctors, my nurses are so supportive of my swimming because they know what it does for me mentally, and they also know what it does for me physically. I mean, I had my 40th chemo today, and I went for a swim in the lake beforehand because I know that I won't be able to swim probably until at least tomorrow night or Friday morning now. So I wanted to swim before, so I still get that endorphin rush, which is so important, and it just means I bounce back from everything a lot quicker. So it's really important to me.
It sounds like you've been quite lucky with your healthcare professionals who've been really supportive all the way. And it'd be hard not to support someone like you, I think. You can clearly see the passion and energy in your voice as to how much something gives you.
I do as I'm told. I trust my oncologist. He's been great with me from the beginning, really. And I fully trust his judgment and his knowledge and his expertise. And if he tells me I can't do something, I don't do it. If he tells me I can, then I will. So with shielding, for example, my last appointment with him, which was over the phone 2.5 weeks ago, he said, "Have you been swimming?" And I said, "Well, I've got a pop-up pool that we bought for the garden, so I do tethered swimming. So I attach myself to a concrete post, and it's a bit like being on a treadmill. It's very dull. I'm looking at the same sort of 4 blue squares on the bottom of the pool on my fence in front of me. It's really dull. I've had to put some little ducks in there, little toy ducks."
You see the odd fish, see what I mean?
Yeah, you need little fish swimming around.
So he said, "Is your lake opening soon? I've heard that some of the lakes are opening." I said, "Yeah, it's opening. It opened a week ago." And he said, "How, what extent are they socially distancing?" I said, they're doing it massively well, limiting the number of swimmers. And, you go there in your swim kit, you get changed by your car, and then you leave straight away. There's no socialising. You get in at one point, you get out at a different place. So they've done it really carefully, and he was quite happy. And I swam there throughout all my chemo before.
Yeah.
So he knows that the water's good quality, and that he knows I'm not going to swim anywhere dirty or dodgy or whatever. So having not been out of the house since lockdown, it was heavenly to go for a swim at the lake, and just to be out in the fresh air, because I haven't even been able to go for walks or anything. Hence the pop-up tethered swimming in the garden, which it serves a purpose. The kids love it, and it's great. So we're gonna keep it up because the kids just love going in there. But being in the lake is, it was good.
That's
so
great.
So going back, you finished your chemo in about August 2018, something like that?
Yeah, beginning of August 2018.
And at that point, are you cured, hopefully? Is that the kind of...
So my liver met, one had disappeared, as I said, it was now turned out to be a lymph node that had gone completely. The other liver met had essentially died. There was signs of necrosis around it. So they were able to do an ablation in the September, and after that nothing showed on any scans or anything until the following March, when I had a massive recurrence in my lymph nodes, all the way basically from my it was in my abdomen at that point. So I had another major surgery in March 2019. So that was the year of my swim. So it was like a robotic surgery. So they were able to use some of the same scars and stuff like that. So, but I've got other scars from it as well. So that was in the March, and I think I was again back swimming within 4 weeks after that. But again, I'd built up my fitness. I knew that I'd have to have this operation 2 weeks before I had it. So in that 2 weeks, I literally blasted swimming as much as I possibly could, just to get as fit as I possibly could for the surgery, so that I knew that I'd then bounce back quicker afterwards.
So at no point did that dream disappear. It sounds like that was always going to happen, this swim. Yeah. Whatever happened with the cancer, that swim was going to happen.
Absolutely. So that was my first recurrence, and they had a look around and they couldn't see anything. Went back for a PET scan 8 weeks after the surgery, and they found that again, lymph nodes all the way from my abdomen all the way up to my neck.
Right. Gosh.
That was on a PET scan, so they could see the activity that was going on. At that point, I was told I was more difficult to cure. Up until that point, I'd been sort of potentially curable, so that obviously was a big shock. That was in May, and the week after that, I was due to be going back to Varnridge Swim Camp to basically refresh myself and get my head in the right place, just have a week of swimming with like-minded people and hard training. So that was quite hard, because again, I didn't want to tell people that I was now incurable, because again, I didn't want people to think I was weak again. So I almost took a step back into being a bit secretive. I then, at the end of the week, told my swim friends. Mm-hmm. And then I sort of put it out there that this is what was happening. And yeah, again, it was a weight off my shoulders. I stopped myself from being negative about it much earlier.
And do your friends, when you talk to friends, do they know what to say? Do they avoid it? It sounds like you've got a really close knit group of friends.
I've got sort of like my friends from school who we're very close with, my choir friends who, again, we're like a little family, my swim family, and then my other friends who are sort of don't fit in any of those three particular groups. They're just sort of uni friends and friends I've met along the way, and then my family. So everyone's really supportive. I have lost a few friends along the way who don't know how to deal with it, and that's fine. That's no one's fault, you know. I don't hold a grudge about any of that at all. It's not many people, to be fair. I know other friends who've got cancer of mine have lost more friends. I just think it's a real shame that people aren't more sort of open. I don't think people that don't have cancer should necessarily be expected to know what to say to a friend that does have cancer.
Yeah.
And also the person with cancer shouldn't just expect everyone to understand, because not everyone is going to understand. I mean,
no, of course.
I knew one person that had cancer that was close to me. I knew other people that, you know, who weren't as close to me, but one person at the age of 39. So now I know lots of people with cancer, obviously.
And everyone deals with it differently as well. Like, you know, you might want to not talk about it to start with, but then later you did want to talk about it. Yeah. And so it's really hard to know. It
is hard.
I bet it's hard for you to know what you want other people to say as well. And then
I mean, I don't expect anyone to react in a particular way. I've learned that over the last sort of 2.5 years, that everyone will behave differently. Everyone's got their own experiences of cancer, whether it's through raising money for a friend who might have cancer, or a family member, or a really close friend that's got cancer, you know, or someone that's lost someone, sadly. So everyone's experience of cancer is very, very different. And I think no size fits all. So I've sort of learned not to expect anything from anyone. I'm just as honest as I can be. And I hope that by being honest, people will think, oh, actually, I'm not happy with that. I'm going to go have that checked by a doctor, or I'm going to call in on that friend who I know has got cancer just to see if she's okay, or he's okay, or that sort of thing, just so that it should never be something you're ashamed of. It should never be something that holds you back.
Yeah.
Yes, cancer is a huge part of my life, and it always will be a part of my life. I'm going to be on treatment now forever, essentially, unless some miracle cure happens, which we all hold out hope for that, but, you know, we don't know. So it's just a part of my life that I have to deal with, and my friends around me are amazing. They really are. They know when to give me a hug. They know when I just need a bit of space. And everything in between, just from getting to know how I react and deal with stuff. But a lot of that's come from me being more open and more honest about it than I was initially, which, again, like I said, I really regret not being more honest at the beginning. There's nothing to be ashamed of. So.
And I think there's still a perception amongst a lot of people that, you know, they hear the phrase stage 4 cancer, and that, partly because of television and media and things, that portrays a picture of someone with no hair, lying on a hospital bed with a drip, not living their life, and generally they then end up dying very quickly.
Yeah.
And that, you know, you are such a shining example, and so many through our 5K Your Way groups of the fact that that's a myth, and that stems from maybe 30 years ago when we had a couple of drugs, and more and more people are living with cancer for a long time, sometimes a very, very long time, you know, with metastatic cancer.
I live with cancer. That's exactly how I class myself. Cancer isn't, I'm not terminal at the moment, thank goodness. Hopefully I'll stay that not terminal for a very, 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 very long time. My treatment currently is doing a pretty good job. I have friends who are very ill, but looking at how they live, it's just
amazing. I think that's probably what every single person watching this is thinking about you right now.
100%.
I just think it's, when you're ill, you rest. When you're not feeling it, and I am ill, I fully admit I am an ill person. I've got cancer. I am officially ill, but I don't see myself as ill at the moment. I know when I feel ill, and I know when I have to slow down, and I know when I can do more. Like, for example, next week, currently I'm having to have blood transfusions, for example, every 6 to 8 weeks, because I'm on daily chemo tablets as well as a fortnightly infusion. So my hemoglobin plummets very, very quickly in that time. So I know that I had a blood transfusion 2 weeks ago, so I've got probably about 5 weeks when I can do stuff. Then I might need to slow down a little bit.
And do you notice? Sorry, carry on.
Even when I slow down, I still do stuff. I don't just sort of stop, because that's not who I am. I have to be doing something. And
how? So we still haven't got to the channel yet. We're getting there in a roundabout fashion. But how? No. This is it's fascinating and so powerful. So how do you modify? Because you've had quite a lot of time on treatment now to learn about your body and to recognize that, when you do need to take it easy and when you don't. And I imagine perhaps at the start that was much harder. How do you adapt your training and your exercise depending on what's going on with the treatment and blood counts, etc.?
Again, it's just listening to my body, because I have infusions every 2 weeks. My bloods are monitored really carefully, so I kind of always know what's going on with them every 2 weeks. I get like an update when I get my bloods back. So still I'm quite happy because they're 102. My hemoglobin's 102, which for me is really quite good at the moment. Normally it's in like the early 90s and lower. So I'm quite happy with 102. And I think exercise, now I'm able to get out and go to the lake more. Hopefully exercise will help, build that up naturally. Hopefully that's what I'm hoping anyway. Yeah, it's just, I listen to my body very, very carefully. I'm not worried if I have to say, obviously it's not as relevant at the moment on lockdown, but if I have to say no to going somewhere or meeting up with friends on a particular day, then I will say no. If I'm sort of feeling a bit lower in energy or whatever. I see what my nurses tell me with my bloods, and then I listen to what my body is telling me. If I feel breathless going up the stairs, which is when I know I'm getting really anemic, or I feel lightheaded or dizzy, then I really slow down completely, because I know I'll be having a blood transfusion the following week. So
do you know what your hemoglobin was when you swam the channel?
Not without looking back on my records, but it wasn't as low as 102.
Because just to put it in context, dopers, so drug cheats, dope themselves with erythropoietin to put the blood count as high as possible. So the fact that you will have been running a slightly low, at least slightly low, makes it.
When I swam the channel, I think I've been on this treatment for nearly 4 months. So now I've been on it for nearly 13 months. Mm-hmm. So the anemia massively started kicking in sort of over Christmas. So, and that, or when I noticed it anyway, it was sort of Christmas time. But yeah, my channel swim wasn't as fast as it would have been had I not had cancer, but marginally so.
So 27th of August, is that right? 2019. Yeah. What time do you start it? When did you get on the boat?
Just after about 6:30 in the morning ish.
And had you had a few days of waiting for it to get the right tide?
So I'd had nearly 3.5 weeks, because my original swim was supposed to be at the beginning of the month. Yeah. You get like a tidal window of about 8 days, 8-9 days. And you book that particular tide, and each pilot will book up to 4 swimmers on that tide. So you have a number, you sort of ranked in terms of order of booking. So I was number 2. So I was waiting for number 1 to swim, and then we got weathered out because the weather was so horrific in that week. Mm-hmm. So I got weathered out to the end of the month, essentially. So I sort of had to just wait my turn.
And talk us through the swim. So I think that the fact that you continued with this dream despite everything else that's going on is incredible, and it's such a powerful message to other people perhaps who maybe recently have been diagnosed, that you can still have dreams and you can still fulfill them. Getting on that boat is an enormous achievement. But talk us through the actual 18 hours. How long was it? 18 hours,
18 hours,
14 minutes, 30 seconds.
I only got to tube somewhere.
Incredible amount of time to be swimming.
Yeah, I was hoping of being sort of nearer 16, 17. But I'm officially now a value for money swimmer, so yeah, it's fine. I'm happy I got across. I don't really care how long it took me. I got there, so I don't care.
Yeah, good for you.
Did you have patches where you thought you weren't going to make it?
On the swim? No.
Yeah.
No. I had patches when my shoulder went, and I got a lot of pain in my shoulder. I don't know how long I've been swimming for at that point, because you don't wear your swim watch or anything. And I told my crew not to tell me how long I'd been swimming for or how long I had left.
Wow.
I just wanted to keep going. So I don't really know. I reckon it was probably around the 14-hour, 15-hour mark when my shoulders started getting really painful. And it was just because it was quite rough. It was a really foggy day. It's the busiest shipping lane in the world. And normally, when I've crewed for people before, when I've been support crew on their boat for channel swimmers or my own relay that I did, you just see ship after ship after ship after ship, and you kind of know roughly where you are and the direction they're going. Because nearer the UK they're going one way, and nearer France they go the other way. And there's a gap in the middle called the transition zone, separation zone. Sorry. I've got triathlon on my mind. No ships are allowed. But like fishing boats and sailing boats and stuff are allowed. You get lots of jellyfish in there, and it's a bit stiller and things. So you know when you get through to the side and you see the ships going in the direction, you roughly know where you were. It was so foggy on my swim day. I saw 2 ships the whole day.
Gosh.
I could hit foghorns, and I could feel massive waves as they create a big bow wave as they go past. So I knew they were there, but you just couldn't see them. But I couldn't tell which direction they were going. So where I thought I wasn't. I was much further back because of the tide. So then when my shoulder went, literally my head went down a little bit, and I was like, oh, that really hurts. It really hurts. It really hurts. How far have I got to go? Didn't want to tell the boat, because under no circumstances did I want to let them know that I was in pain, in case they said, right, Jody, you're out.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, there was one quite scary moment where my entire support crew and the boat pilot and his first mate and my official observer from the Channel Swimming and Piloting Federation were all in a little huddle on the deck. And I thought, oh my God, they're going to pull me. They're going to pull me. And they just had to joke with each other, apparently. But
oh God, so you weren't scared about... You weren't worried about yourself quitting. You were worried about them making you quit.
Yeah, I was never going to quit. In channel swimming, the way you quit is you touch the boat.
Yeah.
The second you touch the boat, or if you have a support, you can have a support swimmer with you for an hour every so often. If you touch them or the boat, then your swimmer's finished, because that's the rules.
Yeah.
Under no circumstances was I quitting, ever. I'd worked too hard and been through too much to quit. I didn't want to let people down. I knew people were pledging money for my charity, and I was just like, I can't let them down. I can't let my friends and family down that have given up so much in the training and things. And my husband and my kids, who had sacrificed a lot of time with me because I was training, I couldn't let any of them down. And also I couldn't let myself down, because I literally had worked so hard for 4 years at this point. It should have been 3, and then it was 4. And there was no way I was quitting. They would have had, if they'd have pulled me,
They would have had to drag you onto the boat by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
The tornado, you're getting on the boat.
But no, you do have low points. So you obviously get quite tired. When just after my shoulder went, I saw a ship. I think it was my first ship of the day, and it was traveling in the wrong direction for where I thought I was. In that it was, I could see it. It should have been behind me, and I should have been further along. And it was quite a long way in front of me, and my head just totally went down then. So they gave me a feed, which perked me up a bit with a bit of energy. Then I think they put a support swimmer with me just to perk me up a little bit more for an hour. But then again, when the sun went down, it gets quite cold because you lose the heat from the sun on your back. So the water was still quite warm. It's about nearer France. It was about 19 degrees on that day, so it was a little bit warmer.
Balmy.
Lovely, yeah.
When the sun goes down, it can get quite cold. Like nights, I personally love night swimming, but not when I've been swimming for hours and hours and hours. Like, oh, I'm really cold now. Yeah. So yeah, they gave me another feed then too.
How did you feel when you finished?
Sorry?
How did you feel when you finished?
Well, the finish was quite a long finish because the beach where I finished was never ending. So it was on a place called Wissant Dunes. So it's basically a really long sandy beach with not many buildings behind it. So there's no lights or anything. So you can't really see anything except the spotlight from the boat, from your pilot boat, down on the water, which then reflects all the jellyfish back up at you. And there's loads of jellyfish there on that day. I was literally sort of pushing them out of the way. They were non-stinging ones at this point, so that was fine.
Yeah.
The stinging ones were further back. There were lots of them too.
God, I don't like jellies.
It's their home. Yeah.
I know, but yeah. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
So I sort of could see that there were some twinkly lights behind the beach from housing, or I assume housing, and they just weren't getting any closer. And by this point, I get very hypnotized at night when I'm swimming if there's bioluminescence, and it was just everywhere. So I'd sort of put my hand in the water, and there'd be just this sort of green streak that followed the pathway of my hand through the water, and I just was sort of a bit hypnotized. I was following this green lighting and these jellyfish that were glowing, and actually swimming away from the boat.
Oh no.
Jody, come back. And it just kept happening. I was just like, oh, this is so lovely. It's a bit like in Bug's Life, where he keeps going towards, this fly keeps going towards the green light. It's a bit like that. So eventually I could see sand, and it was sort of this beautiful ripply sand. And I tried to reach it, and it was just still too deep. But at that point, I may cry.
You're making me go like.
At that point, I just felt
wow,
out of this world. And then eventually, I could touch it with my hand, and it was just the most beautiful feeling in the world. I tried to put my feet down, fell over. Because when you've been like this for sort of 18 hours,
you're dizzy.
Like yeah. So I thought, I'm just going to crawl a little bit. By this time, all my support crew, who was my husband and 3 of my best swimming friends, were in the water with me. They were behind me because they had to stay behind you until the boat horn sounds. Once you've sort of hit, you have to be sort of a certain distance free of the water. And once they sound the boat horn, then they can give you a hug. But until then, they have to stay behind you and they can't touch you or anything. So, so we sort of crawled out the beach, onto the beach, cleared the water, the boat horn sounded, and we just had this massive hug. And all I thought about for about 4 hours was, when I hit land, I just want to kneel down and just touch the sand, because you're so sensory deprived in the water. You know, all apart from the fluidity of the water going through your fingers,
that's all. Yeah.
And then occasionally your feed bottle, which obviously is hard plastic. That's the only thing you feel. So that's all I'd felt or touched for 18 and a quarter hours nearly. So I just wanted to touch something. So I wanted to sort of pick up the sand and feel this sand. And because I dropped to my knees, they're all in a massive panic, thinking, "Oh my God, what's happened to her?" I'm like, "No, put me down. I want to feel the sand." So it was a pretty special moment. It's certainly not a moment I'll ever forget. And it's probably, other than holding my children for the first time they're born, it's probably the best moment of my life.
Oh, sounds
and
amazing.
I remember seeing a video. I think your husband put it up, or somewhere on Twitter, of you finishing, and you could just, I just love the passion and the emotions in your voice when you talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it means so much to me. It really does, and I've made so many good friends who will be friends for life through swimming the channel and through my training for swimming the channel. It literally is probably one of the best things I have ever embarked on in my life. Unfortunately, it's opened a bit of a can of worms, because now I want to do more.
I was going to say, I bet there's something next, isn't there?
I was supposed to be swimming around Manhattan Island, which is 28.5 miles it's like following the rivers, so it's sort of it's assisted in that way. So although it's further than the channel, it doesn't take as long. So that was supposed to be on 2nd of October, but it's been cancelled because of COVID. So that's on the plan for next year, after my husband does his Land's End John O'Groats cycle.
Amazing.
And then possibly there's a swim in California called Catalina. We swim from Catalina Island across to the mainland. And if you do the channel, Manhattan and Catalina, then you get something called the Triple Crown. So I'm kind of thinking about that, but Catalina scares me a bit because there are great white sharks on that stretch of coastline. It would be a real shame to get through all this cancer treatment and then by a shark. Not that anyone ever has been, of course, because they just pull you out of the water.
Yeah.
So it's actually not as risky as it sounds, but I think knowing that they're there, I need to get my head around that. I got through the jellyfish, getting my head around the jellyfish. Now I need to get my head around the sharks.
Jody, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask, like, just on that, is there any, just for anyone that's just swimming in a pool, is there anything you would say, you know, that they're kind of a bit nervous about going in the sea? Like, I've always swum in the pool and I love going in the sea, but I always have this slight, like, oh, am I going to be okay? Like, slight kind of odd fear. Is there anything you'd say to anyone that could, you know, just overcome that?
I was actually terrified of the sea until I went in at Lulworth Cove. Okay. I would kayak on it. I would surf very, very badly on it. I would scuba dive in it. But with a scuba mask, you can see around you.
Yeah, I'm the same.
When you're swimming, you can't necessarily see if it's a bit churned up or it's a bit choppy, or, you know, you're not going to be able to see. And I was terrified of putting my feet down in the sea. So if I did go in the sea, I would literally be like, oh my God, don't put your feet down, don't put your feet down. So I barely went in the sea for decades, probably, other than for scuba diving and stuff like that. And then just in the run up to the Olympics, something just clicked and I just changed my mind. And I think you just have to see, for me, it was seeing something really beautiful and thinking, I want to go in there. And it was an area I knew really well because I'd done a lot of kayaking there. So if you are thinking of going into open water and you've only ever done pool swimming, which is in itself is a challenge anyway, but if you want to make that transition, I think get to know the area where you're swimming. You have to be safe. Now, particularly at the moment with COVID, is not the time to start open water swimming if you haven't ever done it. Leave it to people that know what they're doing and are more confident because of the pressure it could put on the RNLI, the Coast Guard, lifeguards at a lake. You know, you don't want to put them in that position. So if it wasn't if COVID wasn't happening, I would say the water is nice and warm at the moment, unseasonably so. Get with a group of people who know the area, maybe a coached group or something like that, or just someone who is very, very experienced, and get them to take you out rather than going, never swim on your own. I won't swim on my own. I either have someone watching me from the bank or I've got people in the water with me. I would never swim on my own. And I now think I'm quite experienced. There are people who are so much more experienced than me and they don't swim on their own. I know some that do, but they are super experienced and they only swim in places where they know it like the back of their hand and they respect the water. And I think that's the main thing. You have to respect that when you go into open water, you're dealing with nature, and there could be marine life, there could be currents that you don't know about. You just need to be sensible, know where you're going, go with a group that knows what they're doing, and just don't put yourself or other people at risk. And that, like I said, now is not the time to start open water swimming. Wait till COVID's past, do it next year, that sort of thing.
Jody, I've got so many things I'd love to ask you, but I think
I feel like we could go on forever.
I really could, but I've just seen that you're going on the Inside Try show with Helen Murray this week. Is that right? So I'm gonna ping over my questions to make sure that she tells with you. We've had some really lovely comments, basically saying how incredible you are. Sophie Gasson said, Jodie, I think you deserve that successful swim more than anyone. Thanks for an amazing interview. And I think that that sums up what I'm sure anyone who listens to you will be thinking. And your passion, your energy, your love for swimming, and the way that you've just gone out and had a dream and conquered it, despite whatever setbacks been thrown at you, is, I know you said that you hate the word inspiring, but I think it's the only right word for you.
The way I see it, I'm just doing what I love with an amazing support network, so an amazing swim friends. And
one final question, and I think we know the answer, but for someone who's been diagnosed with cancer, perhaps fairly recently, and they've had a dream and their world's been turned upside down, or they think their world's been turned upside down, what would you tell them?
A few things really. Stay as active as you can, because it absolutely helps with your recovery from both chemo treatments. Probably I've not had radiotherapy at the moment, so I can't comment on that, but from surgeries and chemo, it really helps you bounce back. The endorphins you get from exercise are amazing, whether you've got cancer or not got cancer. Be honest with yourself and be honest with other people, and ask questions. If you're going to an appointment with your oncologist, take a list of questions and hopefully have someone with you to write it down, because it can be a bit of a head swirl when you're being told stuff. So have someone with you to write stuff down, and don't be afraid to ask these questions. It's really important. It's your body. You have to have trust in your medical team, and they also have to have trust in you that you're going to be, looking after yourself and being sensible and everything else. But most importantly, you have to live your life, because yes, cancer is absolutely horrendous. I would not wish cancer on my worst enemy, and I don't have enemies. I love everyone. Cancer on anyone, because it's just it can take over your life if you let it. I have my little cancer shelf, and I look at it every day, don't get me wrong, cancer, because I have to have medication every day, and I have to do this and that, scans every 6 weeks and whatever. So I have my little cancer shelf, but then I have my life shelf, and that to me is much more important to keep nourished. The cancer can do one, as far as I'm concerned. I pay attention to it, I do as I'm told with my medicine and everything else. My life shelf is so important, and I look after that shelf, and I keep it nice and dusted, and I do things, and I add things to it, and I just think you have to not let it take over your life. Ask questions, find out about it, research it, not on Google, worst place, don't do that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Dr. Google. But live your life. It's so important, because just because you've got cancer now, you're still that same person, albeit, on a slightly different pathway potentially, or, having to adapt your life potentially, but it's still your life. Cancer doesn't run your life, you run your life, and cancer plays a part in how you deal with your life, and you have to live it. You have to live it. It's so important.
That's a way of putting it, yeah.
Yeah. Jody, I really can't thank you enough. I've learned from this. I'm always going to call the people that I want to learn more about, because you have just been such an inspiring guest, and I'm so grateful to have been able to spend over an hour.
Sorry, I'm a talker.
Time with,
we got excited.
So thank you. No, I could have carried on for another hour, 2 hours, all evening. You've been just so incredible. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks so much.
My first 5K my way in locally, but I'll be power walking, not running.
Brilliant. In Rick's
very, very not cross with me at first.
It's Rickmanworth, isn't it, that you're local?
It is, yeah.
Brilliant.
When it gets going, I'll be there.
Brilliant. Send us a picture.
I will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Well.